Rolling. 3.
I'm Georgie and I'm running to be co-president Welfare and Campaigns.
Hi Georgie, why did you choose to go for the Welfare and Campaigns role?
So I'm running for co-president Welfare and Campaigns because firstly I love SOAS and I love SOAS students, and I'm so passionate about the union's role in enabling students to make the most of their time at SOAS. And in regards to the Welfare and Campaigns role, I want the union to be an open, inclusive space which creates a sort of dynamic hub of activity, facilitating student activity.
If you win, what would you like to be your trademark, policy or creation, something that can be your legacy?
Well, I think it's sort of dual in regards to, so one in terms of the union and one in terms of SOAS as a whole. In terms of the union, I think open and inclusive union, putting the structures in place that opens up the union executive to the student body, so that it is, really being run by and for the students. And making our campaigns also much more effective because they're much more inclusive. And in terms of SOAS as a whole, I think with management really fighting for students' interest with management and getting some of our demands, for example, in regards to welfare, getting the SOAS management to provide adequate welfare support for students, which it's currently not doing, and in regards to campaigns, the Democratise SOAS campaign, fighting to make the governance of SOAS more transparent and accountable so that it's run in the interests of the entire SOAS community.
Why do you think you're the best candidate for the role?
I think that I have the most experience and dedication and passion to implement all of the policies. And I think that as campaigns officer for the past 2 years, I've facilitated student activity in regards to campaigns. And I think actually all of the campaigns come down to welfare and well-being. So whether it's about the cleaners or the cleaners' mistreatment or the staff pay cut, that's about their well-being. Campaigns about liberation, about international students' issues, all of these are about welfare.
In your opinion, what's something that the current campaigns and welfare officer has done well, and what's something they've done less well?
I think there's been some good progress this year in terms of welfare. For example, this year's Welfare and Campaigns co-president has continued the work of previous welfare co-presidents in terms of developing a peer support system, whereby students with mental health issues or learning disabilities can provide support to one another, and I think that's really important. But not to sort of make any criticisms, but I think that one thing I would want to do differently this year is to open up the Students' Union much more, to make it much more visible and accessible and inclusive, so that students engage with it, seek support from it, and make it their own.
How would you balance making it inclusive with championing campaigns that can sometimes be quite polarising of the student body?
So I think that campaigns shouldn't be polarising, and that all of the campaigns at SOAS are sort of in the interests of all SOAS students, and that what needs to happen is for there to be much more collaboration between campaigns. So one thing I want to do is to hold campaigns assemblies, regular campaigns assemblies, so that there can be much more collaboration between these, and so that they're much more accessible to all students, so students can come and find out what they're all about.
There's been discussion recently about balancing safe space policy with freedom of speech, and allowing people to come in and speak about things that are unrelated to any views they might have that people don't like. How would you deal with kind of balancing freedom of speech and safe space?
Yeah, so I think currently we don't have a safe space policy, and I think this is a problem. And this is something that I would want to do in the role, is to implement a safe space policy. And I think safe space doesn't include a right not to be offended. So it's not about offence. Safe space is about making the union responsible for ensuring that there's no discrimination, prejudice or intimidation on our campus, and so but not curbing freedom of speech. So I think this is something that has to come about through sort of considerable consultation between students and societies, and something that we have to sort of discuss a lot in order to come up with something that has broad consensus among the student body. Events like the recent one, where someone who wasn't saying anything controversial on our campus but has said that in other places. These kinds of events will have to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, potentially being decided at UGMs or through online referendums as to how students feel about it.
If you win, what's one thing that you won't do and one thing that you can't do? So one thing that you refuse to do and one thing that you're unable to do.
So one thing I will refuse to do is to be bullied by management. I know that previous co-presidents who've tried to sort of fight for things with management have, especially women, have sort of suffered sexism and sort of not been listened to and been actually bullied. And I've actually experienced that when I've engaged with management, that they do try and use those tactics. So that's something that I will refuse to put up with and that I will fight against. And something that I can't do, I guess I can't personally democratise SOAS, which is that campaign is a priority of mine. What I can do is take that campaign forward, try and mobilise and unify the student body so that we can drive change and try and make SOAS run in the interests of the entire SOAS community.
Do you have any strategy for dealing with management?
Yeah, so I think that you have to be really firm with management. It has to be a working relationship. It's not that you can just, it shouldn't be at all hostile, but you have to be firm with them, and you have to fight for what students want, and you have to use their language to an extent. You have to really know details about, why they should grant the demands that you're asking for, and you have to make that case very strongly. And I've been involved in all of the campaigns sort of towards management, all of the things that students want for management. So I think I'm very experienced in sort of arguing for those demands. And so I think they have to be very well argued and very well presented, but also they have to be accompanied by, it can't just be the elected representatives who are pushing for these in governing body. It has to be accompanied by broader campaigns which involve the whole of the community coming together. So I would also like to still be involved in organising that campaign so that we can all pressure the SOAS management as one community.
If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, which 3 words would you choose?
I think I would choose friendly, experienced and strong. And strong in the sense that I fight for what I and others believe in and what's right, and wouldn't be afraid to take on management.
Brilliant. Thanks, Georgie.
Thanks.